Good morning, St. Louis, and welcome into the Randy Carricker Show featuring Brooke Grimsley and a very surprised Brenden Schaeffer because he's like you. Where are all those people you just named? Neither of them are here. I'm Matthew Rocchio. That is the aforementioned Brenden Schaeffer, and this, of course, is STL Sports Central, brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, where the crown is yours. Brenden Schaeffer, we got a lot of baseball to talk about. We have a lot of football of all kinds to talk about. But we're going to start with a little bit of baseball. Okay. Coming up, Hanna Barton will join the show at 10:10. We also have Calum McAndrew, who is the beat writer for the Columbia Tribune down in Columbia, so he's got a little boots on the ground there. You know, I love that. He'll be joining us at 10:45, so we're going to be bopping around between Cardinals baseball and Mizzou football talk because, of course, it's the border war, and who else better to get here to co-host a show before the border war than the greatest Mizzou honk.
Slow down.
The
biggest homer
in
alive.
Some people's opinion, the most putrid Mizzou homer in these 50 states. Ladies and gentlemen, Brenden Schaeffer, how about him? Oh, look at the crowd. Wow.
Thank you, everybody. This is the week to be a homer, by the way.
How has border war week been for you so far?
I'm just ready for the game, but you know, we're gonna get there. Slow and steady wins the race. It's Thursday. 2 more days. Like those old weekends only commercials.
Yeah.
You know, two more days. We're almost there, guys. Yeah, that's how I feel.
Only is a deep cut from Brenden Schaeffer.
That's how I feel.
Steve Wright and Bubs checking in. Good morning, and morning, fellas. Listen, guys, jump into the chat today. We're going to be talking a lot of Mizzou, a lot of Cardinals baseball. Like I said, Hanna Barton coming up from Southeast Sports Fans here in just a few minutes to talk about not just Mizzou, but the entire SEC schedule. I'm going to have to admit to her that I am a Lenora Sellers for the Heisman fan.
And
I hate to admit it.
Well, I don't think she'll have a hard time.
No, but I didn't want to admit it to her because then it gives her a bullet in the chamber for the whole entire season, especially during that week. Maybe I don't. Maybe I just lie to her and say I hate Lenora Sellers until after Mizzou and South Carolina play each other.
He'll be a good Heisman candidate till that week, and then he'll be on the field with the guy who's going to pass him up. But that's fine. We'll get to it when we get to it.
Fair enough. Good. We're going to get into a little bit of Cardinals talk because they did win yesterday, took down the A's, and they won this series after getting shellacked in game number 1. So they win this series, and now everyone wants to talk about a couple of the big names. And Ellipsis 150, jumping the gun a little bit on the breakdown of the show because later on after Hanna, before we get to Cullen, we will be talking plenty about Mizzou and or plenty about the Cardinals. And one of my big topics was going to be the dichotomy between Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker. But Ellipsis 150, we'll start right here. Start one and release one, Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker. If I had to pick right now, I'd pick Gorman over Walker any day of the week. I think that's the easiest question you could have given us today.
Well, it's a good thing that you don't have to release anybody. I mean, they both have team control, and this isn't necessary. But, yeah, the more productive player right now has been Nolan Gorman, and it's not particularly close. Another home run for him last night is 14th of the season, and I'd have to check how many plate appearances he's had to kind of see what kind of full season pace that would be. 338. So I mean, he really is. If you do commit to him next year as a guy for 550 to 600 plate appearances, he probably gives you 25 or 30 home runs. And I think he's a guy that really does seem to play better when he gets consistent opportunity. And that has been something they've been able to provide him of late. And he's rewarding the team with that patience that they've showed in him.
I think it also needs to be said, and this has been my big point, and I think it stands to reason. The power this year is not the numbers to be looking at and focusing on, I think, because I think it's reasonable to expect a little bit of an uptick next year as he continues to adjust his approach. The big thing for me is obviously we've been talking about a lot, the walk numbers and things like that, because it just shows that what he was talking about before he got healthy this season was, I'm going to pull back the bat speed. I'm going to get more control. I compared this yesterday to him being the hitting version of what we always wanted Carlos Martinez, Tink Hens, and Alex Reyes to do, except he finally did it. He pulled back. He got more control. So now I expect next year for him to tick up the power numbers again because, to your point, even with the walk numbers being a little bit higher, a 409 slugging percentage is not enough for Nolan Gorman. It's going to have to be that 475 plus that he was putting up when he hit 27 home runs back in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, to be like a real plus player for you, that would be wonderful. I think you'd take like a 450 slug if he's taking a few more walks, gets the on base. He's at 317 now. If it were 330 and you're talking 780 OPS, I think would be more than plenty. He's still striking out plenty, but I don't think that's something that you're ultimately going to change. Like, I understand he's made more contact, and so The batting average is up a little bit from what it was last year, but he's still never going to be like a 300 hitter. He's probably never going to be a 250 hitter for the majority. I mean, he's never had a season in the big leagues where he's hit 250. It really is. Yeah, it's nice to say, you want to be able to pull back you want bombs. I mean, if you're Nolan Gorman, you have to offset the strikeouts with the power. And to his credit, he's starting to do that a little bit more of late. And I think that's a fine player to have on your team. Now, there are questions for sure as to, okay, how does that fit in next year when you have the Nolan Arenado situation looming? You have JJ Weatherholt and his future presence with the club looming, and you still like Brendan Donovan, at least I do. And so how do the Cardinals figure all that out remains to be seen. But I would say that Gorman has surprised over the last couple of months in that middle of the season, I might have been inclined to say, you know what, if you move him for whatever you can get in the offseason, that probably makes sense to clear space for Weatherholt or whatever else you need to do. At this point, I would say, yeah, let's see him ride this out the rest of the season. And you don't have to trade him. You can find a spot to put him next year. But that's going to be a complicating factor for Chaim Bloom, who's got a lot of deals to make, a lot of guys to find spots for.
Graham jumps into the chat, and please, if you're watching, jump into the chat. We'll get it up here on the screen and react to it. Questions, comments, or just insults. We'll put them up there too as well if they're about us. Gorman is looking better defensively at third too. Your reaction to the defensive stabilization of Gorman over the last week?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot better. And really, it was just that little stretch of him throwing the ball and you had no idea where it was going to go. And that's uncharacteristic because probably the strength of him as a defender is his arm. And so was that just like a weird, hey, I've been moved back to third or I haven't played as much? And
it was crazy to me that people were reacting to that like he couldn't play third base.
I was reacting to it like he couldn't play third base.
Well,
I'll admit it.
You were crazy.
Well, I was wrong.
How do you feel about that now?
I looked at it, and again, I want to contextualize what I was saying at the time, which was the Cardinals were a few games above 500. I could see that wild card. That was when they were as close as they've been. And I said, man, if you are still trying this Nolan Gorman thing at third when it just doesn't seem like he's a great fit there, and it costs you games, it could knock you out of the race. Well, we don't really consider the Cardinals to be in the race. And so now it's a different context for me where, yes, and the Cardinals were right to do it. Play Gorman through all of this until, he finds himself on the other side of whatever weird defensive struggles he was having. And now he looks like a capable enough third baseman. I don't know if he's plus, but I think he's fine. He's solid. And again, if the home runs are there, 25, 30 a year, that's kind of what you look for from that position at third.
You think mid-August, Brenden Schaeffer's learned a lesson about jumping to conclusions a little too early?
I don't think so. No, I'm sure I'll do it again.
Is he stubborn or what?
I'm sure I'll do it again at some point. Just stay tuned.
Maybe next time you'll think about something you won't hurt some people.
Yeah, you've never said anything dumb before on these shows.
Exactly. I'm glad we've established.
It's just me that makes mistakes.
I'm glad we've established that. No, I accept the fact that I'm a moron. I'm completely okay with that. I don't know what you're saying. We have to move on and talk about some Missouri Tigers.
Okay.
You can't go complete Mizzou honk. That's for 10:45 when Calum McAndrew from the Columbia Tribune.
I do think it's more like a Callum. We can ask him specifically. I think it's Callum. If
Callum,
it's not, he's never corrected us saying it. So anyway,
the one L should have thrown me. Calum McAndrew will join us. So we'll go full Mizzou here.
Okay.
We have to talk about the other teams in the SEC this time. Is that okay?
That's
Brenden?
fine. Yeah,
okay,
I'll share.
Because our good friend Hanna Barton from Southeast Sports Fan is joining us right now. Good morning, Hanna. How you doing?
Hey, y'all. How's it going?
Doing great. You obviously know Brenden Schaeffer. You guys do a lot of great work over on Southeast Sports Fans. Big week for the SEC, not in a great way necessarily. You had the big win for LSU over Clemson, which I know you were a big fan of, Hanna, as well as South Carolina's win over Virginia Tech. But the big one we'll start off with, that is the Arch Manning dud from Texas to open up the college football schedule on Saturday. What was your reaction to Manning and the Longhorns?
I mean, I think if you're looking at it from basically any other standpoint of someone with the last name of Manning, it's expected that someone in his position would come out and have errors. I think that the hype around Texas, specifically the hype around Arch Manning leading this Texas offense, was completely overdone and not his fault at all. I mean, he has done nothing but said from the beginning, look, I've done nothing to earn this hype yet. So, I mean, I personally feel bad for the kid a little bit because, he wasn't out here kind of running his mouth like maybe some of these players that did back it up, like Castellanos from Florida State. But he still was out here, he's new, he's fresh. And yes, he's gotten to back up viewers, but this is his first time coming in and playing in a very tough environment on the road against the reigning national champions. And, we had talked about this earlier, Brenden and I, but I think that this is something good that happened for Arch, because what better way to really get baptized by fire and learn than making mistakes in a big game like that. And in the long run, it's not going to affect, Texas at the end of the season. Hopefully not, when the committee is sitting there. But I'm interested to see how Arch continues to develop.
And I want to ask about Alabama, because that didn't go very well either, as they lose at Florida State.
We talked about that one. You can't count Mike Norvell gets a year to recruit some people, actually gets a quarterback. You can't count him out at home in Tallahassee. We talked about that on Friday with me, Randy, and Hannah, and I'm actually kind of happy that one happened. I know it's bad for Missouri's schedule, but
no, it's not.
I kind of like the craziness and insanity of Bama going down like that. So
you seem to be more on the side of Florida State. Yep. Hannah, I'll ask you, was that more about Florida State or more about Alabama, the way that result went?
I really think it's a mixture of both. And I mean, I'm kind of in a similar boat where, like, I talked about this on Friday. Like, I want to see Alabama come out of that game with a win, because it only looks better when teams like Mizzou or South Carolina play them in the long run. But also, I think we forget Florida State was a great program 2 seasons ago. They looked awful last season, but you keep the same coach, you have some similar staff, you don't just lose that capability. And Mike Norvell did a great job recruiting, going into the transfer portal. I mean, he has got himself a quarterback, hands down. I was so impressed with Castellanos and everything that he was able to do against that Bama team. And on the other hand, Alabama did not look like how we're used to seeing Alabama football. There was nothing that really stood out to saying, okay, well, at least as long as they can really hang their hats on this defense, so they've got a really talented quarterback they've just got to build around. It just looked kind of mediocre. And I hate saying that, because I think part of what makes the SEC great is having these, perennial powerhouses like in Alabama. And it's kind of concerning to see that they may be in this off year, which, again, you've got a somewhat new coach, so that's to be expected, but not at Alabama. That is not how they do things there.
Yeah, them struggling is it's an odd feeling again. And I know $70 million feels like an impossible amount of money.
The buyout?
Yes. Because like, listen, everyone's going to throw out Texas A&M, but listen, Texas A&M booster money.
They got that oil
money. And it was 58 million, right?
I don't know.
I think they put like 58 million together
for Jimbo
to get rid of Jimbo. Just 70 million seems like it's untenable for the Alabama base. I don't care how rabid and large that fan base is.
I'm reading 77.6.
I'm sorry
for Jimbo.
I don't or 70 for Jimbo.
Yeah.
Even so, if it's 70 million for DeBoer, I don't see. I mean, this is a 2027 problem for Alabama.
But if they go like 7-5, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're not going to. If Florida State just went 2-10 or whatever it was, and they kind of had no choice but to stick by their guy, and now they're feeling better about it. But I don't know. I kind of wondered if it was more about Alabama than Florida State, and I made the comment that Missouri, their schedule, how I look at it, Alabama, is no longer the most difficult game that I see remaining. It's either Hannah's Gamecocks or maybe at Oklahoma. Auburn. What'd you think of Auburn in the first week at Baylor? Like, I did not see that coming from Jackson Arnold. I'll be honest.
I didn't either. I mean, you hear at SEC Media Days, oh, we're having the defense go easy on him in practice to build up his confidence. And you're thinking, and then, you come out and decide you're going to make up national championships that you all of a sudden have. That, to me, is a team that is not feeling confident about where they're at, was not feeling necessarily confident about their quarterback. And then he comes out and he looks like someone that's playing with so much confidence. I mean, you talked about it. Like, he got beat down a little bit at Oklahoma, and I did not expect him to come out with that much swagger and just like playing like the recruit that he was promoted to be heading into Oklahoma and at his time at Oklahoma. And I didn't like it, because I liked the idea of having Auburn be this team that we could kind of write off. But I mean, he showed that he's got some skill, and it's not like they had the easiest opponent, in Baylor. And so I'm interested to see how the season goes for Jackson Arnold, because I think he surprised a lot of people a little bit. It is only the first game, but I did like what I saw from him for sure.
One game that I did think was odd because you look at the score line, and I think Tennessee missed covering by half a point or maybe a point and a half.
They covered. Tennessee against Syracuse.
Was it 19?
I thought it was like 14.
I think I got it at 19 and a half. Maybe I bought 6 points on that one. Maybe that was on me. Anyhow, there were times in that game against Syracuse where it really felt like Tennessee had 3 or 4 chances to step on the neck and really put the game away, and they just kept letting Syracuse back into it.
They won by 19, though, did they not?
That's what I'm saying. Is I understand that the score line isn't going to make you think, but there were multiple times in that game where they had their foot on the neck and they let Syracuse at least make it interesting again and again. I watched Tennessee. You know that Heupel's going to figure out a way to put up points, but when you're constantly letting big time drives against teams like Syracuse, I just question the longevity and the ability of Tennessee to be a real team once we get into week 8, 9, 10, and those kind of things.
I actually have the opposite take about Tennessee week 1. They won by 19. They were favored by 13 and a half. So, I mean, they covered pretty easily, and they were up 31-14 at half. I actually thought that they would struggle with this game because of introducing the new quarterback. They get Aguilar from UCLA after
he hit a couple bombs
after Nico leaves, and he looked great. I mean, 247 yards, 3 touchdowns, good completion percentage. That I was worried. Well, not worried. I wanted them to lose. To be honest with you, I know I get it that like I have to love all the SEC teams, but it would have been very funny after the way that Tennessee's offseason went if their new quarterback stunk. He doesn't stink, and so I thought Tennessee almost was a little bit of more impressive than I thought they'd be against Syracuse. Like, Hannah, when you play a legit, I get Syracuse, but it's a Power 4 team in the first week. Sometimes those games don't always go so smoothly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was surprised by Tennessee. I mean, obviously, I think going into this, Brenden, you and I talked about it. We kind of roasted Tennessee a little bit in our team preview. Like, we didn't think that this was going to be really a good season for them at all because it didn't seem like Heupel had control of his locker room. It didn't seem like their offense was going to be ready. And that's normally something that a team coached by Heupel needs to have is a strong offense. And it showed kind of what we expected in the sense of, okay, maybe their defense isn't the strong part of their game, which we thought they were going to need to have because we didn't think their offense would look as good as it did. And I was surprised by Aguilar, pleasantly surprised. Well, I don't know about pleasantly in terms of like, I see Tennessee. Yeah. But I was surprised. I mean, he looked good. Their offense looked better than I thought. And, it might not be the complete down season for the Vols that Brenden and I initially predicted in our preseason preview.
I like this from Chris Widener in the chat. The Heisman decision will be made when DJ Lagway beats Nussmeier. Interesting prediction there. We saw some big games both from Florida, and obviously LSU got the biggest win on the week for any SEC team, taking down Clemson. I know you like it when a team takes down Clemson, so your thoughts on Nussmeier and LSU in that big game?
Absolutely. As someone that has been on the field after beating Clemson in the other lesser Death Valley, it's pretty great, and I like to see an SEC team take them down, of course. I was impressed by Garrett Nussmeier. I thought he looked really good. I thought he was one of the few quarterbacks that really backed up the hype that we've seen surrounding him going into the preseason. I thought LSU looked great. I think, maybe Dabo graded them a little bit lower than he should have if the press conference that I'm referring to where he only gave his team, maybe a couple points lower. I think that's a little bit delusional on his part, but what to expect? It's Dabo and Clemson. That's kind of what they do. But yeah, I mean, I was impressed with LSU, and I think we, talked about it a couple days ago where we rank our SEC teams right now. Right now, I have LSU as my top SEC team based off of what I saw and how they handled themselves.
There you go, and we'll get you out on this one, of course. Your South Carolina Gamecocks had a big night. Lenora Sellers, solid night as he begins his Heisman campaign. Hopefully, maybe it's DJ Lagway, maybe it's Nussmeier, maybe it's Lenora Sellers. Your thoughts on that matchup for South Carolina and Virginia Tech?
Yeah, I think it wasn't their best game. I think they had a really strong start. I mean, that first drive got me and all of the other Gamecock fans fired up because it looked great. It looked exactly what kind of we've been promised this whole offseason. Then we had some issues. We had some errors. And, anyone that has followed South Carolina in recent seasons knows that their first game is rarely ever their best. I mean, they almost lost to Old Dominion last year in their first game of the season. And so to see them kind of, come back from those mistakes in the fourth quarter and see a lot of the players that had rebound. Nick Harbor dropping some easy passes, then coming back, getting that absolute bomb of a touchdown pass. And then obviously Vakari Swain dropping the return and then being able to come back and have a special teams touchdown is always special. So yeah, I was impressed. I think there's a lot of areas to clean up, which is also good. You want to have areas where you know you can improve. Heading into week 2, it's going to be definitely a lighter week for them against South Carolina State. And then the first kind of test comes with Vanderbilt next weekend.
Obviously, it's a big weekend for Mizzou fans like me and B-Schaef because of the Kansas matchup. Is South Carolina SC State a big weekend for you guys or no?
No. It's
Okay.
kind of one of those we can take our foot off the gas a little bit. Obviously, it's great because SC State is right down the road in Orangeburg, and so they have a lot of fans that come, and it's always a fun game. It's a night game,
Oh, okay.
home opener, and so I think fans are just excited to be back at Williams-Brice, and I think it's good that the first one at home isn't really super high stakes.
It's a friendly little in-state matchup.
Kind of like Mizzou and Illinois, it sounds like.
No, it's not like that. It's probably like
I
Mizzou,
would put it Missouri State type of situation.
Missouri State,
Damn.
SEMO.
Good Lord, you are just taking down SC State.
SC State's FCS, are they not? They're not an FBS opponent.
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
One last comment. Matchup here. Everyone's talking about SEC and Big Ten. Oklahoma and Michigan, the one matchup for the SEC with 2 ranked teams. Do the Sooners get it done at home, or do we have a little bit more Big Ten supremacy to hear about next week?
Listen, as someone who grew up with a mother from Ohio and rooting for Ohio State before I had my own team, the Gamecocks, I'm always going to root against Michigan. And of course, I'm always going to take the SEC over the Big Ten. But I mean, we know Michigan has got some talent on their roster this year, and we'll see what they do with their self-imposed fines and whatnot. And whatever they decide they're going to put as their restrictions, they're waiting until games they feel a little bit better. But I'm taking Oklahoma at home in that one.
There it is. That's Hanna Barton. You can check her out at southeastsportsfans.com. Check them out on their website or just go straight to the YouTube and look them up as well. Hanna, thank you so much for your time. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
See you later. That is, of course, Hanna Barton. Check her out. And also the guy next to me, Brenden Schaeffer. You do a little stuff over there on the Southeast Sports Fans, don't you? You're a Southeast Sports fan.
We did a lot of team previews and stuff on YouTube. There's a lot of great stuff going down on Instagram as well if you want to check them out over there.
So let's talk a little bit back to the Cardinals. Actually, no, before we do that, I want your thoughts on the Michigan Oklahoma stuff, because Charlie Marlowe, who we love very much, very dearly, eventually he will join the show at some point.
Yeah, that'll be the day.
I'm going to lose a lot of money to myself on that one. Giant Big Ten honk, and he's all over Twitter claiming victory for the Big Ten over the SEC after Ohio State over Texas. We get another Big Ten SEC matchup this weekend. How are you feeling about the conference as Oklahoma hosts Michigan?
It feels early to, like, obviously those are the 2 marquee teams.
It's almost like we shouldn't have rankings yet.
Texas, Ohio State. No, I mean, honestly, we don't. And it's a good thing to not have the CFP rankings until a little bit later in the season. But of course, like, the rankings that are out there probably do sort of influence the bias that the committee has when putting together the CFP rankings. And so, yeah, I would agree. Preseason rankings aren't good, because if you didn't have them, you'd probably be going, wow, I mean, Florida State beat Alabama. That was really impressive. An SEC team at home, that should be one of the top teams. LSU going on the road to Clemson should be one of the top teams, but you have to sort of bake in what you thought the previous week, and that always makes it tough. I don't know yet how good Oklahoma is. They weren't very good last year, but they've completely changed everything about their offense. They have the new quarterback, the offensive coordinator that came from Washington State with Moneyline Mateer, and they've got wide receivers. That's what I call them now. That's what we're doing. We're calling
Moneyline Mateer.
The Venmo thing. And so then they have wide receivers now. So if
make
they're
a couple harmless jokes and
jokes. Okay, sure. We always joke about the specific games that we bet on with our friends, and not actually what we did.
I make cocaine jokes whenever I pay my rent.
Do you?
Yeah.
All right, that probably goes
that's
well.
never gonna run me into any problems later on down the line. Not once.
Not even once.
$575. That seems like
a lot.
Seems like a little cheap for rent, but a lot for something else.
Anyway, what were we talking about? Oklahoma and Michigan. I think Oklahoma probably wins. Bryce Underwood. That's kind of the storyline for Michigan. I think Oklahoma had a harder time getting off the ground against Illinois State last week. They still beat them by 32, didn't cover, but they will have to take a step forward with that offense this week, and I think they probably will. It'll be a close game, but I would take the Sooners in this one.
And how much of that is biased by the SEC fact?
I don't like Oklahoma at all. So there's no bias in favor of Oklahoma with me. In fact, it's the opposite. I have to try to be objective with them and evaluate.
Pull the mask on, do a little bit of Mizzou homerism thing. I hate so much that Mizzou's in a conference with Texas and Oklahoma again. As much as I
don't hate it because I like games that I care about. You know what I mean?
I hate having to care about Texas and Oklahoma again, though.
Yeah, because
you know
when you
how
lose,
blissful it was to be an early Mizzou fan from 2007 to 2007, 2006 through 2012 and be like, I hate having to deal with these SOBs every damn year. And then we got 10 years of bliss not
Almost
having
15.
to deal with them. And a lot of that bliss was, getting, shit kicked by Alabama and Georgia, but there was something about that was special. And I was okay with it. It felt a little bit better. And now it's back to Texas and Oklahoma. And yeah, I'm happy when they lose.
The good news,
great.
It's not going to be like it was.
Thank God.
It's not. Missouri is in a different place now, so it's going to be different.
I understand.
We just beat Oklahoma last year.
I was going to Mizzou when they scheduled Texas for a homecoming game.
Well,
when Colt McCoy was the quarterback.
That was probably bad planning on their part, but they should have done it with Alabama this year. I'm not afraid. I wanted Alabama to be the homecoming game, but understandably, they're trying to sell tickets to UMass. They made that the homecoming game. September 27th, be there. That's all I got.
We have Calum McAndrew. I was trying to make it more, and Calum McAndrew from the Columbia Tribune. He's the Missouri Tigers beat writer. Will be joining us in about 15 minutes. So we're going to roll back to some Cardinals conversations because we were talking about Nolan Gorman's hot streak, and today's a good day to be talking about that because Cardinals are off today, but there's an arrival down at Busch Stadium, and that is Nolan Arenado is back in St. Louis.
Is he?
So that's apparently what that's apparently what I heard this morning.
Okay.
So Nolan Arenado's back in St. Louis. Nolan Gorman has finally hit a mesh point where his approach to the plate and his approach in the field are both things you want to see from him going into next year. But the future Hall of Famer is under contract. What do you think will happen? What do you think should happen? And why do you think there's a discrepancy between those two?
Yeah, now I'm just seeing from yesterday, Ollie was sharing that Arenado would be back in town by last night. Going to be examined by team doctors today. If cleared, as expected, he will go through batting practice and fielding drills on Friday, but he will have a rehab assignment. So, okay, that's the update on that. It's hard to, and look, there are people who would have said, I don't think Arenado is going to play a game again this year for the Cardinals. And there was a point in time where I wondered that myself. Him coming back to St. Louis and going through batting practice and everything seems to indicate that he's going to play. I mean, if he's going to bother going on a rehab stint for a veteran of his caliber, he's going to be back before too long. That's going to be good eating, by the way, for the minor league guys when Arenado's there. Like a lot of times, I think Gorman got a food truck one time, like a taco truck, and I imagine Nolan is gonna do it right. But when we think about next year, I don't know where he fits. I don't know where he fits when you think about like what the Cardinals are liable to be aiming to do, which is like they want to win and do well, but they're still kind of working through the pieces and parts of what the next iteration of the team's going to be.
You might not hear it because maybe they're going to get smart optically, but next year is another year where if everyone wasn't tainted about the word, you'd be hearing the word runway a lot again.
Yeah, they're going to have to pick a different word.
They're going to have to pick a different word, but it's going to be the same thing.
Well, I don't know that it's
a similar thing.
I don't know that it's like the runway was to determine who to move forward with, right?
What if now it's just runway for more runway for development?
I think you just go. I call it the installation of the guys that you picked. Who are they going to pick? You could come up with a whole list of names, and I could make cases for and against just about all of them. Lars Nootbaar, all right, hasn't been able to stay healthy is kind of the case against him. Has a little bit of cachet to his name to where if you traded him, you might get something of value. Versus, the StatCast numbers, the on-base ability when he's going right. Like there's maybe more in the tank that hasn't been discovered. You could, I do that with Nootbaar. You could do it with 4 or 5 other guys. Brendan Donovan, I think, is one of their best players, but therefore it means he's got some of the highest trade value. And if you're trying to find a place to put Weatherholt, and if you think Gorman is third base eligible for you next year, then Weatherholt maybe fits in at second if you can get a king's ransom for Donovan. You could make a for and against case for a lot of guys in this position player group, and they're going to have to pick some. The Arenado one almost it feels like it should be a foregone conclusion because he wants to win. This team is not probably going to go out and add marquee free agents to maximize their chances to win in 2026. it's sort of like a foundational year of, all right, we did the runway. We're kind of going to decide who to move forward with of our controllable talent. And then maybe we'll add to it here and there to make ourselves a requisite team that can compete to have a 500 season, 85 wins. Maybe you sneak into the wild card, but that's not the goal anymore, is to like maximize free agency to get to that point, because they tried that a number of years and it just didn't work. So now you have to get to a point where you're comfortable going, we're going to roll out the younger players that we have and see where that gets us. It's not really runway. It's these are the guys that are that make up the core of the team. How good are they to be able to advance us? And then we can maybe supplement at a certain point, and that's when our real window begins to open. Is Arenado going to be here during that window? I'm skeptical of that, because he's only got 2 years left on the contract anyway, and we don't know what 2027 is going to look like in MLB. So if there's a team out there that says, oh, you know what, where Arenado is in his career makes a lot of sense for us, that would make a lot of sense for Chaim Bloom to explore, and then give Arenado the straight up, like, it's probably this, or we can't necessarily guarantee everyday playing time next year. And I don't know that they would ever do that, where they would say, hey, we're going to keep you, but we're not going to play you with all the money that you're being paid. But if Gorman can be somebody beyond 2027 that can help your team, like if he is a guy that plays his way into an extension, that's a different timeline than Arenado was on. And the Cardinals need to probably pick where they're heading with those guys.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of cliches we can talk about, but refusing to give yourselves more flexibility because of a move that you made 5 years ago that's not working out now is, I guess
what move are you referencing now?
Like I'm saying, making the move for Arenado.
Okay.
Worked in the moment.
Okay.
It's not working now. Letting it now handicap future things like Gorman's development is the height of stupidity or stubbornness or a blind spot. It's ignorance or arrogance one way or the other is my point. Because you simply have to be able and be willing, when you make the big move, you have to be willing to dump it if it doesn't work out after 3 or 4 years. You can't just keep putting the good money after, but you can't just keep putting in the more money into a lost situation because you don't want to accept the fact that it's not working out anymore. And that's what I'm saying. Stubbornness, ignorant. I'm not sure what it is. It's just they have to move on from the Arenado situation. Whether it's we have to eat the money for him to play for a different team, which they never want to do, whether they have to not play a baseball player that they're paying a lot of money, which they never want to do. They have to change the way they operate and stop being so just static and stuck in their ways. And I think this is a good example of a Cardinals team in flux, in an organization that has a chance to say, this is how we do things. Well, let's change the way we operate in a couple of ways. And this would be one way of saying sometimes you got to bite the bullet. And I think this would be a good time to do it, considering all the changes. Maybe financially, it's maybe the worst time to do it. That'd be a fair argument on the other side. I just think they're missing a chance to make a fairly obvious move at a good time to make it in a transition moment for the franchise.
Well, and that's part of it too, is a transitional moment where Chaim Bloom is coming in, taking over for Mo after this season. And you'd like to, give him the ability to mold the roster how he sees fit as quickly as possible. There's a lot of changes that may need to be made. And that's not just the active roster, but the 40-man as well, with guys that need to be protected from Rule 5. So there are a lot of things that are going to happen. And it would seem counterproductive unless they believe that Arenado can revive himself at the plate, which, I mean, if you look at this year's numbers, they're not great. He's got a 660 OPS, which is down from the 719 OPS that he had last year that people weren't super thrilled about. So unless this recent trip to Florida, gets him in a place strength-wise with the shoulder where we think some of that power is coming back in what will be his age 35 season, again, I'm skeptical that you're going to see a markedly different version of Arenado at the plate than what you've seen the last 2 years. Maybe that's what September is going to be about when they get him back in there. You're going to be back to that conversation of, remember Gorman's been playing third base every day? Well, now he doesn't get to because Arenado's back, which is going to be tricky. But, maybe part of that is giving Arenado some runway to see, all right, is there anything different going on with this bat that can, A, compel us to bring him back next year, rather than consider eating money? Or does it build a little bit of trade value for him if people, other teams around the league see him looking more like the version of himself that he has throughout his prime? I don't know that any of those things are particularly likely to happen, but it seems there's an opportunity over the next few weeks to explore that and then, have all the information at your disposal when you go into the offseason deciding, is there a market for Arenado? And if there's not, how far are we willing to go to have a guy like Nolan Gorman or if it's Weatherholt get a chance at third base in 2026?
Missouri beat writer
You're not going to get it right, but it's Calum McAndrew.
Calum. I was going to say it right the first time, and I had no confidence in it. Calum McAndrew joins us here in a few minutes. Let's get to your chats before that. Pushing Daisies says, where does Arenado even go? The way he's been playing, he'd probably end up on a similar caliber team.
And he's got to accept a trade to that team, too. So, my thought would be if there is, again, the teams like the Dodgers always seem to have, they have they have these lineups that are pretty top heavy, and I don't know what their plan will be for third base next year, but I'm looking at their lineup. Kike Hernandez played there yesterday. It's not like they're rotating third baseman recently. Yeah. I don't know if it's because of injury or what the deal, but Alex Freeland plays third base sometimes for them. They could do a lot worse than Arenado batting seventh and playing Gold Glove third base, which he still does,
especially against lefties.
Yeah,
where his OPS is still 750.
To me, I mean, he should end up with the Dodgers, which is probably what he wants in the first place. But the Dodgers will say, "Look, I mean, we're paying for the defense. The offense is a question at this point. We're not going to pay for a big chunk of that contract." And the Cardinals, I think, if this is something that's available to them, would have to be willing to eat some of the money.
You go to them and you say, well, "Okay, look at it like the Ohtani contract. You guys paid him, this much money to be a hitter and this much money to be a pitcher. So we'll take $20 million of Arenado, and then you guys pay him $20 million to be a defensive player."
There you go.
So just come at.
We'll pay for the bat part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just come at them with their own mindset. I think it'll lock them in pretty solidly. Chris, we got Arenado says Arenado can go, or this could be Ben. Arenado can go back to Florida. Samuel House says Gorman doesn't have to play this month, guys. He's made the team. NATO is auditioning for future employment. It's a good way to look at it from Arenado's perspective, I guess. Smooth Productions. There isn't a fit for Arenado anymore on this team. We appreciate all he's done during his time, but it's come to an end. He also says that this is not the only tough decision the Cardinals have to make. They, especially with Bloom taking over, will have to make drastic changes. You can't just keep the same group of guys.
Yeah, I think that's what I would agree with as well, is that they need some significant changes, and how many of those changes you can make in one off season is tricky. It's why I advocated to see some of those things happen at the end of July. Cardinals didn't get the offers they were hoping to see or maybe they weren't hoping, but that they would have needed to have seen in order to trade guys like Nootbaar or at the time Gorman, and now Gorman, performing a little bit better. And so, maybe they were right to hold on to those guys. Going to remain to be seen. Quick housekeeping. Did you give the link to Calum?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just needed to make sure that I forgot to ask him before. Sorry about that. Anyhow, yeah, how many guys can you realistically trade from a 40-man roster in one off season is going to be interesting to see, because will there be this tone of aggression after it's been sort of, we're wishy-washy when we do make trades. We're a little bit hesitant to do it. We don't want to make the wrong move. Will that still be an aspect of this, or will we completely see a change into, hey, these weren't my guys. I didn't draft these guys. I wasn't here for the bulk of their development. I can trade 3 or 4 of them and start to kind of remake this roster in the way that my group sees fit.
Jeremy Hodge, it will be 28 when they compete again. You and Randy did this last week, but I've also seen this over the last few days again popping up from people talking about the Cardinals' inability to rebound quickly over the next few years in this rebuild. Why are you not negative about the Cardinals' ability to rebuild quickly, or are you?
Well, because I don't think it's think
hard in baseball.
They haven't lost a bunch of games. They haven't ever really been a bad team other than 2023. That was a bad season, and the team was bad and the results were bad. You lost 91 games. Last year, they went with the approach of, okay, we can fix this quickly. Let's make a few edits here. Let's add some pieces in free agency that we need, and we'll get it back into the postseason. And they fell a little bit short of that, just won 83 games that year. And that's when they said, okay, we do have to step back to step forward. And that's what we're seeing this year. But even in this year where they didn't sign anybody in the winter other than Phil Maton, and he's not here anymore, they basically were stagnant. And with that stagnant organization that we complain about so much and say, you know, they're just so far away from being contenders, they're 500. They win tomorrow, they're a 500 team. They're 70-71. So they're not, you know, they haven't had a run like the Pirates or, you know, the Astros before they got good, or the Orioles. They haven't had that, and it doesn't feel like they'll need to have that in order to turn it back around, because they might be kind of close to their floor right now. You may have another year or two of that floor, but I feel like there are core pieces of this organization that will be around the next time they do it. To me, process-wise and development-wise and some of the stuff they did organizationally, you do need to completely gut it, but they're doing that. It just is taking a little bit longer because Mo is riding off into the sunset in a month rather than, you know, 8-9 months ago. That's all. I don't think they're as far away as people think.
One last question here, then we're going to get to Calum McAndrew, who's joining us right now. Samuel Halep says 7 because you threw out how many trades they can make from the 40-man roster.
7.
Give me the over-under. To not from 7. Give me your over-under.
Total trades
for people to wager on for Cardinals trades off the 40-man roster in this offseason.
Well, like number of players will be more.
Okay.
But the number of like trade, because some of them will just be cut.
Yes, like actual, like you want the actual moves
like,
we see.
Like
where
when Garrett Hampson's not on the team next year, it's not because they've traded him.
I'm talking about actual trades.
2.5 feels like a good
2.5
of like trades where we go, that's a trade. That one counts. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the border war. It's a big weekend in Columbia, Missouri. It's a big weekend here for Brenden Schaeffer, of course, our local Mizzou honk. And we're going to get one of the beat writers from down in Columbia. And that is, I'm going to say it right this time. I swear to God. Calum McAndrew joins us right now on the Randy Carricker Show. Calum, did I say it correctly?
Absolutely nailed it. Got it spot on.
Crushed it.
That's good because I butchered it the first 3 times. So that's good. I finally got it right.
We got him home. Yep. We got him home. Calum, how excited are you for this? All that you've heard about this rivalry between Missouri and Kansas, the fact that it's on campus this time after the previous iterations were at Arrowhead Stadium. What do you expect you're going to walk into when you see what it looks like down in Columbia on Saturday?
Yeah, you know, I've had the pleasure of covering a few of the basketball games in recent years. It is the most fun you can have on this job when they renew these games and when they bring these games, especially to campus. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to be walking into. I've been here for 5 years, and I saw, you know, Missouri play Kansas State, which I thought was a pretty big game at the time, but nothing compared to the build-up from what I've heard for this game. I'm so excited for whatever Saturday may bring.
What has it been like? You know, like you said, you're experiencing the rivalry. Obviously, Columbia as a town knows what this rivalry is about, but the student body is kind of new to it from the football side, especially. What has been the scene? What has been the feeling around Columbia this week?
It's all anyone's thinking about. Anyone you talk to. I mean, even going back to the summer, it's obviously a big deal when you open your season. My cat has decided they want to get in on this, but it's all anyone wants to talk about. The season opening was a big deal, but everyone was already sort of looking ahead to this one. I mean, it's been 14 years. I get it. You know, I'm a huge soccer fan. I love Celtic Rangers. I'm a big Celtic fan. So the Celtic Rangers game were all I could ever think about when I was growing up and going to those games. I get it. I get why there's deep-rooted hatred here. Got a deep dive coming out on that tomorrow. It's awesome. It's so much fun, and it's what college football is all about.
Not to spoil it, obviously, everyone check out the Columbia Tribune, but can you give us a little teaser, maybe one little anecdote that jumped out to most to you about kind of from the rivalry this week that jumped out? Yeah, I mean, there was so what I did was I went and talked to Mizzou's staff historian, Bob Brendel. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame next week for what he's done for Missouri over the years, and just asked him to tell me some stories about the rivalry, essentially, just over the years, who has made this hatred that dates back all the way to the Civil War and before the Civil War, really, who has sustained it over the years through conference changes, through this hiatus that we've had, you know, who are the main actors that have made this hate last. Why are we playing Mr. Brightside between the third and fourth quarters? And why is everyone ignoring the B-K-U sign that flashes, you know? I'm pretty sure I can't say the other word on here.
Yeah.
You know, so stuff in there, you know, stories about Dan Devine getting a peace sign from him from the Kansas coach and flashing half of it back. Some really good stuff in there. It's mostly just a kind of a why the hatred has persisted. It should be a little bit of fun.
That's awesome.
Can't wait. You guys should all check that out at the Columbia Daily Tribune by Calum McAndrew. I want to ask you a little bit about your impressions of Kansas first, and then we'll get into the Missouri roster. They beat Fresno State. They beat them handily. That's their only FBS foe so far. But Fresno, they walloped Georgia Southern this week. And so I'm doing the transitive property going, is Kansas maybe a little better than we think? It's a 6-point spread, give or take. What's your impression of the Kansas Jayhawks team that's going to be coming into town on Saturday?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good Kansas team. And I think it starts with their quarterback. He's a 6-year guy, Jalen Daniels. He is a very, very talented player. I asked Eli Drinkwitz about this because he's the type of player that Missouri had a little bit of trouble with last year. He is a good passer. He is a little bit turnover prone, and he showed that. And I had a story come out on him this morning, kind of digging into the numbers of what makes Jalen Daniels tick. And he is a pretty good passer, though. He has a really high explosive play rate, which is dangerous. But the real problem is that it can burn you with your legs. So Missouri, they had some troubles with guys like Thomas Castellanos, with Diego Pavia, with Lenora Sellers, of rushing a little bit too far past them, the secondary overreacting and stepping up in run support, and suddenly a receiver breaks free. Now, Kansas has a couple of very good receivers as well in Emmanuel Henderson and Cam Pickett. They've got a good run game. So there are a lot of ways that they can hurt this Missouri football team and make this a very competitive game in Columbia. It starts and ends with Jalen Daniels, though. He's a 6-year guy. He's been through injuries. He's been through the highs. He's been through the lows, as Eli Drinkwitz told me yesterday. I think he's a good player and somebody that could absolutely hurt Missouri on Saturday.
It's a heated rivalry. We know this, Calum, but it's also seemed a little bit nicey nice this week with some of the things the coaches have been saying on both sides. What was your impression of Drink saying, hey, we haven't ever seen a quarterback like Jalen Daniels? Like, the respect your opponent is strong right now, it seems, with Missouri, even though there's maybe that hatred seething underneath.
Yeah, I think he just doesn't want to end up on a message board again.
Yeah.
I think that's really what it is. You don't want to give anyone anything for free. Look, there's absolutely no way behind the scenes they aren't doing every single thing they can to rile these guys up as much as possible for this game. We know that's how you win games. I mean, I think back to last year, the lead up of what Dennis Gates was telling us about this rivalry and what they were doing to prepare for this rivalry, I think directly correlated to how fast Missouri came out the blocks and beat Kansas last year. There's no way they're not doing this behind the scenes. They've been doing it all summer. Absolutely tell everyone that you're focused on execution. Say that speeches don't matter. I bet you there'll be a couple of fiery speeches that we see when they release some mini movies at the end of this week. I can almost guarantee that.
On the Missouri side of things, obviously the reactions are the changes at certain positions. They've got a new kicker because of an injury there. Yeah. Things are a little bit thin all of a sudden out the quarterback spot.
Right.
Is there a feeling of a little bit walking the tightrope right now with the Tigers after week 1?
Not yet. I liked what Eli Drinkwitz said about it, especially at the kicker position, that they're not going to change anything until they are forced to, essentially. If something goes wrong on Saturday and beyond, and they're forced to then maybe have a look at the way they call fourth downs in field goal range, then sure they will. But entering this game, they're not going to do that. Matt Zollers, you would definitely prefer not to have to turn to him, because especially how impressed I was with Bo Perbula in the opener. He had an excellent game, I thought. Really, really had a great handle with the passing offense, which was my main concern. And I know it's Central Arkansas, but he still looked very good. You would rather not turn to Zollers, but he is a highly rated prospect. He does throw a really nice ball. There will be some freshman errors. We kind of saw that in camp, and that was kind of the reason that he'd never fully materialized in the quarterback competition. But they have a good quarterback there. You obviously want to keep Bo Perbula healthy, but I don't think depth is an issue yet. I think Blake Craig is definitely going to be a big miss. I mean, that's a guy that if you needed could go out there and kick a 60-yarder for you. But we'll see how it transpires. You got to give the other guy a chance first to let himself prove himself.
Calum, these games are won and lost on the lines. We hear that a lot.
Yep.
For Missouri, how do you view the trenches coming into this game? Offensive line had a couple of miscues early. Bo Perbula taking a couple of unnecessary hits, but then they seem to clean that up. You just have that concern because it is Central Arkansas. And then on the other side, it seemed as though the defense needed that halftime hype from Drink to get them, into sack mode, into turnover, into takeaway mode. Just curious how you expect the trench play to go in this one for the Tigers.
Yeah, I'm a little more concerned about the offensive line than the defensive line. I think the defensive line will be fine. I don't think they did really anything wrong on Thursday. I don't think they probably weren't at full guns blazing, But the O-line, I was a little bit concerned there because it did look like an offensive line that had made 3 changes 2 weeks earlier. It looked very much like they had moved an All-American left guard out to left tackle. It looked a lot like they had moved a right guard to left guard. It looked a lot like they brought a reserve up from backup position to right guard. That has to be fixed. You can. Central Arkansas, certainly not the best team Missouri is going to play this season. Kansas has a couple of great edge rushers that are really going to test what Caden Green's all about at left tackle. He's a player who does have first-round NFL draft potential. He is big, he is long, he is fast, he is strong, he is everything that you would want a left tackle to be. But is he going to look comfortable out there? It's so important now. They cannot afford to lose Beau Pribula. I know I just said that, Matt Zorlers is a good player. You can't. The season is on a long, winding road to nowhere if Beau Pribula goes down injured this week. That's just unfortunately how it is. So they absolutely have to shore up what it looks like, especially on that side of the line on Pribula's blind side.
Calum, my last question is more about you. So Scotland, college golfer, and now beat writer for college football. How exactly do we connect all these dots?
Yeah, I get lost a lot. I played college golf, moved there when I was 18, and one of my professors there was an ex-Mizzou professor, and he said, if you ever think about doing more school, you should check out this town in the middle of Missouri. Well, I listened. I'm nothing if not easily influenced. But yeah, that's how I ended up here. Stayed here. Absolutely love Columbia. I've been on the beat for this is my 5th season, so time's flying.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Calum. Enjoy the weekend. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll talk to you later. I expect I need at least one analogy in your report this weekend. Like I just need like on a scale of 1 to 10, where Celtics Rangers is 10. Where does the Missouri Kansas hit on that scale? That's the comparison I need from a Celtics fan.
I'll do my best to get that for you.
Thank you so much, Calum. You have a great rest of your day, sir.
You too. Thank you.
There he is, Calum McAndrew over from Columbia Daily Tribune, the beat writer for the Missouri Tigers. He was fantastic.
Does a great job, man. He really is sharp and has a lot of good insights. And it'll be a fun time for a lot of us because, again, Mizzou, Kansas, we've seen the basketball iteration a couple of times on campus. We remember back to the most recent border wars in football, and it was at Arrowhead, where it's like pretty good even split of Kansas fans, Mizzou fans. And this is going to be the home crowd for the first time in a while. I don't know when they started offhand doing the Arrowhead games.
That's a good question.
Because we were talking to some of the guys that were playing in the rivalry in the 90s last night at Harpo's in Chesterfield, and they played those games on campus. And so at some point it switched when we were children, I assume. And now it's going to be back on campus. So to have that on Saturday and to have it be at Mizzou first, when you're going to start doing the home and home thing again periodically, feels good, and it's going to be an unbelievable atmosphere.
So, the first 20 instances of the game were played in neither Lawrence nor Columbia. They were played in Kansas City, Missouri from 1891 to 1910.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if there was just like an arena issue there. Then we get
didn't have one. I don't know.
Yeah, then we get Columbia Lawrence. We get 2 games in Kansas City in 44 and 45, and then it's all Columbia and Lawrence. And the next time we get Kansas City, Missouri is 2007, November 24th, 2007, when number 3 Missouri faces off and beats, I believe at the time, number 1 Kansas.
I think they were number
36-28. That was the first game in Arrowhead.
Oh, really? 07
That's
was
insane.
Yeah, I didn't have
Holy crap! I had no idea.
I didn't have a measure for when they moved the game over.
This is the first Missouri Kansas game in Columbia since 2006.
Yeah.
So it's been almost 20 years since the Kansas Jayhawks traveled to Columbia, and I have to say I was in the stands. I can't believe I was in the stands I didn't realize I was in the stands for the last Kansas game in Columbia, and I was in the stands for the last Kansas game against Missouri overall.
Okay.
It's the only time I've ever been to Arrowhead. That's
the only time I've ever been to Arrowhead was in 2015 when Mizzou played BYU of all teams.
I don't
know why, but that's not true. I also was there for for like a fraternity formal during school, but
doesn't count as
nobody
much.
was
No,
playing
that doesn't
during
count as
that.
much.
So
Yeah, so I'm so excited for this rivalry again. I got to experience it. I camped out to get tickets for one of the last Kansas Missouri basketball games.
Oh, that's great.
That was there. I mean, literally camped out in a tent the
Yeah.
entire night. This would have been 2011,
I did that for season
2012.
tickets once at Mizzou, but
Yeah.
they didn't play Kansas anymore. It couldn't have been 12.
No.
That was my first year, and
Oh, yeah,
of
you're
course we were in the SEC at that point.
Yeah, 12 was my last year. The fall of 12 was my last year. I think the spring of 12 though, which would have been your final year in high school.
Correct.
I think spring of 12 is when I was.
So we had no crossover.
Yes, I think spring of 12 is when I was.
I had to wait till after to meet Rocky.
Yeah. No, you were there my senior year, because my senior year was fall 12, spring 13.
Okay.
So that was my senior year at Mizzou. So I'm just so damn happy.
A little
these
bit of
things are back
crossover,
together.
and I hid from you that year. That must have been what it was.
Jesus Christ. You would have been close. I was around. I was hanging out.
I'm sure there was a time where I was walking through the
Just
campus
passing
and
in
I
the
go,
night.
that head is so large, and then like I kind of forgot about it.
I will
Just like kind of dropped
my
it.
head would have been a little bit smaller back then, because back then I was pretty much had a buzz cut the entire time.
Okay.
So there was no extra.
Didn't do the hair
layers
stuff.
going on. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I very depressingly didn't do the hair stuff. College would have been a lot better. If I would have been rocking this head of
Was
hair,
that my problem the whole time?
if I would have been rocking this head of hair all of college instead of what I was doing, where after freshman year I go, I don't want to pay for haircuts anymore, and just started taking the clippers and just taking it all down. Oh my God, those $20 would have been much better spent on haircuts than alcohol. Let's put it that way.
There you have it.
Let's go back to the Cardinals talk, because something me and Randy obviously got into a lot yesterday. I'm sure you got into it on your YouTube channel, which was obviously the comments from Cardinals hitting coach Brant Brown about Jordan Walker, the preparation and things like that. In fact, I can still hear, just so that we have the context, I can actually throw them up here on the screen. This again was Brant Brown on Calum McAndrew's Gas House Gang on Tuesday. I just need to hear your reaction, maybe even your reaction to the reaction now that we've had 48 hours to Brant Brown's comments. And again, Jordan Walker did have another rough night last night.
Yeah, I think the context is always like when a hitting coach is coming on a show and they're asked a question. Bernie asked him the question about Jordan Walker, and he answers the question. Like, I spell that out just to be like, here's the context of why are we talking about this? It's not like Brant Brown got up on a soapbox and said, here's what everybody needs to know about Jordan Walker. He doesn't work hard. He was asked a question about it, and it seems as though he answered it in a way that gave some insights, where he says, hey, we've had long conversations about this, and whether it's looking at the film on the starter, but can you come in first day of the series and put this kind of extra behind the scenes work in when it comes to their relievers, take in the information, the videos. Like, it's interesting because we're always going to read too much into something. It's not to say he does none of that, right? Like, it's not to say that Jordan Walker's never done the film study, never looked at a scouting report. But, what Brant Brown or any, representative of the Cardinals or any other team for that matter chooses to say when asked about a topic, you can obfuscate and not really say much, or you can kind of be candid about it. And it seems as though he was candid. And it's one of those things where, like, I feel as though fans generally, when there is like the Cardinals right now, fans aren't cool with the Cardinals. They think Ollie stinks. They think Mo stinks. They're not sure about Brant Brown because the season was going so well. And then, he can't get the best out of Jordan Walker. What's wrong? Maybe he's not the hitting coach for us. Like, everybody's going to have these visceral reactions to what has most recently occurred, which is sports fandom. So that's fair. But you also kind of look at it and say, man, the Cardinals guys, whether it's Ollie, whether it's Brant Brown, like, they're professionals. They've had a lot of time in this, and they can't do it for Jordan Walker, but they can guide him. And it seems as though there's, like, everything that Brant Brown is saying sounds pretty reasonable as far as having a plan for how you want to approach and how you want to develop a player and learn a process. And, it just was interesting that there did seem to be the implication of a little bit of, I don't even know if it's friction, but a little like discord of, at a certain point, the way that we're trying to get him to go and develop and blossom is hopefully what he's going to kind of latch on to, which again, inherently the implication is that maybe it hasn't been 100% all in on that to this point. I don't know that we want to overreact to it, but it does seem like one of those things where, look, if this coach or this manager is saying, hey, to the player, here's what we think would be best for you, because you're not currently getting the results. It'd be different if Jordan Walker were performing, at this point. It's year 3 of his big league career, and we've seen a decline from a good, solid year 1 to year 2 numbers to now year 3. It's gone down from there. I think the physical tools are really not a question for Jordan Walker. And so when a lot of this other stuff seems like approach-based, mentality-based, that's the kind of stuff that I do think he needs to kind of make that connection and then keep it, right? We've seen it in fits and starts, I think, for Jordan Walker, but the consistency is the name of the game with him. So I reacted to it. I thought it was notable that it was a conversation that happened, that he was pretty candid with his thoughts, but at the same time, it's like, it doesn't feel like out of bounds or out of line necessarily to say, we're trying to get more out of Jordan Walker. The numbers suggest you should be trying to get more out of Jordan Walker.
I was this close to getting a Coke right there.
Really?
So close.
A Coke?
We almost had consistency at the same time. I almost got you.
Yeah.
Alex Klobbs, who I like when we get new chatters that I haven't seen before. I think this is the first chat I've ever put up
like
from Mr. Alex. Mr. Clobes.
Clobes.
Start your name. If your name starts with a C today, I got
no chance.
I got a 50-50 shot at it, and I'm usually getting it wrong.
I thought in the 45 minutes before we talked to Calum, but I thought that I was going to be smooth about it. Like, he's probably not listening before he comes on as a guest. So if I just make sure that Rocchio knows how to say his name long before he gets here, he'll never know that we struggled with it. But then you go, I'm going to try to get it right. And then it was a whole...
why would I try to, like, I'm not going to lie to the guy.
You leaned in.
I butchered your name
No,
twice.
you leaned into it.
Right.
That was fine. I was just giving you crap.
B-Schaef, I learned a very long time ago. Trust me, if you were me when you were in 6th grade, you learned to turn into the skid. You just have to.
So Alex, what did Alex have to say
This is just a classic case of a young, immature, frustrated player clashing with coaching. The comments I don't think were meant to be negative. I think he's just trying to get through to Jordan.
Yeah, there's a part of you that has to know that's going to get back to Jordan Walker if you're saying words about him on KMOX. But, like, don't you feel as though any conversation that happens with Bernie Miklasz on KMOX has happened directly with Jordan Walker before too? Like, that's not the first time that Jordan Walker has heard some of that, right? And and you say that with almost like a skeptical ear. I'm going to say that those conversations have happened because Brant Brown said long conversations about this have happened.
Yes.
Getting him on the same page. And, like, I think it's a challenge with a young player, and Jordan Walker is still just 23. I can understand how it would be a challenge when you're Jordan Walker. You are better than everybody on your high school team and better than everybody that you face when you're playing high school baseball. You're drafted in the first round by the Cardinals. You're this massive hulk of a human being that can do some amazing things to a baseball with a bat in your hands. You play at high A or low A ball. You're better than everybody there. You play at high A. You're the best one there. Double A Springfield, best one there. Cardinals are so impressed with you in spring training that year, they bring you up right to the big league, skip AAA. At a certain point, you're like, I am floating on air. I am this guy. It can be a wake-up call to be like, hey, big league pitchers are really good too. And now they're adjusting back to you after your rookie year. And you have to be willing to be stubborn about the adjustment that you have to make back to them. Brant Brown talked about it being kind of like a game of tennis, I think he said. Like, there's some truth to that. And the willingness to sort of add that layer to your game rather than I'm just going to beat everybody with the physical is a huge part of it. The degree to which Jordan Walker has or hasn't done that, I'm not even really trying to comment on. But if you're just looking at it from like a big picture standpoint, you could understand that, yeah, you would really want to see that element to his game develop. Mike says Walker hit the ball really hard twice last night. I
think there's a 60% chance that's typed out with some sarcasm.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so. Because I think we talk every time we talk about Walker.
I don't know.
We talk about the fact that he's got, he had 3 outs last night. Well, they were all 110 mile per hour velocity.
But that's good. I would take that if that were the case. I haven't looked at the StatCast on it, and I was in the middle of a Mizzou show last night during the game, so I didn't see every at bat. Look, we have to be careful, I think, about seeing an individual day or game from Walker, whether it's a 3 for 4 with a homer, whether it's an 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, or an 0 for 4 where he hit 4 balls on the nose and they just found gloves. We can't. We've done this, and in a social media world, I think it's fair to kind of do it. Sometimes you get excited when things are going well, and you want to say, "Oh, that's the real Jordan Walker. Here he comes." But it maybe is something that we have to wait to see a week in a row, 2 weeks in a row, a month in a row before we say, "Hey, this is who Jordan Walker is now." Like, you've got to have that consistency.
Or are you giving any credence to potentially that this is a situation where you'll finally see it with Walker is when he's in a different jersey?
I have a take on that. And by the way, he did have the top exit velocity of the game, 108 off the bat. So that was not sarcastic.
How many
That's
times?
true.
No, but I'm saying pointing it out in the chat, I think might have been a little sarcastic because how many times? I mean,
you can let us know, Mike, how you feel about it.
There's, 50 or 60 times this year where we've said the phrase, but he hit the ball hard last night. We say it so often that I think there's a potential it's cliche there. Your take on the change of scenery conversation around Jordan Walker, because that's actually, you know what? Before you make that take, before you say that take, I'm going to make people wait for that take because I want to tell everybody really quickly about one of our wonderful sponsors on this show, and that is our friends over at the Stifel Charity Classic. Tickets are now on sale. It starts tomorrow. StifelCharityClassic.com, September 4th through the 7th. Norwood Hills Country Club. Tomorrow is the OAR concert. Get out there. It's going to be an absolute blast. And get down to StifelCharityClassic.com to get those tickets. Really affordable tickets. And again, if you have a dad, like we all do, who's a huge golf fan, the names on this tour are some of the biggest names. Guys like Y. Yang, Bernhard Langer, people like that who are on these tours. These are the guys that they were watching 10, 20 years ago. And now you got a chance to saddle up right to Norwood Hills, which is a quick, easy drive, and watch an incredibly good tournament for, again, some very, very affordable tickets. So check them out right now at StifelCharityClassic.com. Get started tomorrow. It's going to be an absolute great time. And more than just a great time, they absolutely have some fantastic swag, because look what I'm wearing. Look what I'm wearing, B-Schaef.
You got swag?
I got the Stifel Charity Classic swag right now. This is the Stifel Charity Classic hoodie they got right now. I'm gonna do a little modeling for everybody. I mean, you got the hood. It's classic.
It is nice.
Pockets.
It's a nice look.
It's a good look. B-Schaef can get a feel there.
It's soft too. I like it.
There you go. So check that out.
I'm gonna steal his.
Get your tickets at StifelCharityClassic.com. Get your hoodie when you go there to Norwood Hills Country Club for the actual event. Now, Brenden Schaeffer, your take on Jordan Walker needing a change of scenery.
No, thank you. No. That's my take over my dead body. What does Mo say? Out of my cold, dead hands?
Yep.
I think I'm going to cold, dead hands on this one.
Oh, no, that did not go well last time.
I understand that it didn't go well last time, but that is the way that this needs to end if it's going to end at all. I'm going to be extremely stubborn when it comes to Jordan Walker because he's not the one that you get to do this with, right? He's not the one that gets to go somewhere else and play great. Play great here. If you're going to play great, it's going to happen here. That being said, I don't think you can devote everyday playing time to him in 2026 over the likes of Alec Burleson. Victor Scott's going to play center field. Is Ivan Herrera going to be in the outfield mix? Is Nootbaar still here, or is he traded? Like, it's tricky because you can't make trades and remake your outfield group in order to accommodate Walker before knowing that Walker has the goods. But you also can't necessarily, with a crowded outfield, devote a bunch of playing time to him and, figure out the way that works on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. Like, at times right now, we're seeing Nathan Church play over him. Like, I don't think that's going to happen long-term. But I would want to be stubborn about Walker because I do think the physical tools are real. I want to see this is a new front office. And unless this front office just privately thinks Jordan Walker stinks, so maybe they do. I don't know. We don't talk to him. Unless they believe that and they just say, we can't do anything with this guy, let him be like the reclamation project that you figure out. Let this be like the new development staff will be totally in place in 2026. The new helm of the organization, Chaim Bloom, will be in place. I would want to see that through and try to get it out of Jordan Walker while he's still a Cardinal, because while I think you could have a change of scenery and improve from it, I definitely could see that being a benefit to him. This isn't a charity the Cardinals are running. This is a business, and I don't think they're going to get anything for him right now that would justify moving on from him. Like, don't move on from him just because you're tired of it not working. Try to ascertain what's actually going on and whether, if it's ever going to happen for this player, it happens here. That might have to mean more difficult conversations with Jordan Walker. Is he cooperating? Is he on board with the plan? Is he not? Come together and make one. But I would be super stubborn about it because that would be a bridge too far. If Jordan Walker does have this within him and it happens somewhere else, let that be something that the Mozeliak front office would do. Don't let that be something the Chaim Bloom front office would do, unless there's a team out there who really values him highly and you can get something for him. I'm not just trading him to make him go away.
Trading assets at a low mark, usually not a great move.
Once it's this low, you might as well go all the way to zero.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's going to go to zero, it should happen with the Cardinals next year, because again, the upside is, he figures it out. And you've got a guy that's still controllable for a few more years and is a real good talent. If it doesn't work out, all right, better draft pick. I don't know. Like, it's not like they're going to spend money in free agency to win next year. Yep. So I would continue to, it can be frustrating at times, but almost like if this is rock bottom, It can't get much worse from here. Let's everybody get it out in the open and say, what's going on with this? Why is this happening? And Jordan, what do you think we need to do to change it? Because we've tried to work with you on getting the most out of you. We believe in you. We know what's in there. All he said, he's not close to giving up on Jordan Walker. Neither am I. I think it's worth it to pursue. If for no other reason than the value proposition, because there is no value to trading him, and you don't need to trade him to do him a favor. This is Major League Baseball. It's not a charity where you could say, oh, it might be best for Jordan's career to go. Don't care. Figure it out here. Like, I really do think you have to be stubborn about it with Jordan, because the potential is still there.
Mike Gray says he was being sincere. He
Told you.
You hit it right at 7 times.
Bang. Bang. Yeah. No, for sure.
I'm kind of programmed to expect people to be cynical.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes we've got fans that say, I'm just watching the ball and I'm hoping for the best. All right. Good for you, Mike.
Terrell Whitener, we like to call him Science. He says, let's just move on from Walker and let him reset somewhere else.
Can't do it. I'm going to be stubborn. I know that that's not maybe the most popular take, because people are tired of seeing a guy fail. But I've seen some good things out of Jordan Walker, and I want to see it happen for him. And if 26 were the year where we thought the Cardinals were like going to contend for a World Series because they were going to, sign a right fielder, or they were going to,
3 pitchers,
three pitchers, that would be different. But it's not. So what do you got to lose? What do you have to gain? A lot, potentially.
Alex, and we went back and forth with him on the phonetic spelling of his name.
Okay.
And we didn't really figure anything out.
Didn't get
like,
to
we can just stop, guys.
Just don't bother.
I'm gonna go with clubs, though. I'm gonna go with clubs. Alex,
Okay.
Clubs. There's a lot about Walker, but I like the Rasmus comparison. Great tools, but clash with coaching, and a change was inevitable. Look at Tyler O'Neill, talented player, but needed a change.
Tyler O'Neill is on the injured list currently. He has a 726 OPS this year. His OPS with the Cardinals in his final year, the tumultuous one, was 715. He's the same guy. He had last year, which was a very good season for him, but he had very good season with the Cardinals. 2021, he had a 912 OPS. He never even did that with the Red Sox. He's not doing it right now with Baltimore. A lot of this narrative of Cardinals, can't figure it out with a guy, they move on from him and he blossoms elsewhere, is more narrative than fact. It oftentimes it's actually never happened that way. Colby Rasmus was never great wherever he went. He was just the same player he was with the Cardinals. He was fine and he had a fine career. Tyler O'Neill is Tyler O'Neill the same as he was in 2023.
Tyler O'Neill having a 6.4 WAR and finishing top 10 in MVP in 2021.
Dude, he was
something I'll never. I don't think my brain will ever. Lock that piece of information in, because it just seems so fanciful and not real.
He was a monster that year.
What the hell?
He really was.
6.4 WAR.
He got down ballot MVP votes. I mean, he won a Gold Glove.
Eighth.
He won 2 Gold Gloves in that span.
There are guys in the Hall of Fame who finished 8th in the MVP voting one time.
Yeah.
That's insane to me.
Tyler O'Neill will not make the Hall of Fame. That's my hot take for the day.
I just.
But my point with that is, like, Rasmus, O'Neill, you're right. They're all the same. They moved on from the Cardinals and were basically the same players they were when they were with the Cardinals. It's not this magical, they go somewhere and they're, suddenly these world beaters.
And by the way, the one that everyone talks about them letting go, that's so bad in Randy Arozarena.
Let's talk about him.
They didn't give him a chance. Like that's the thing about Randy Arozarena is despite the fact that everyone, heck, I was in the same building we're in right now, wondering why the heck is Randy Arozarena not getting it back.
Was this 2018?
I think it was.
I remember doing shows in losing my mind that Jairo Munoz was having outfield starts in the same year that Arozarena was raking at AAA, and then they finally
7 at bats.
They finally called him up, and they hardly played him, and that was like of the time, we know better, of the Cardinals org that has been their downfall in the 7 years since, for sure. But they looked at their, Bader's the guy. I mean, this guy, they thought they had the outfielders that they knew were going to be their guys. And they thought, I still wonder, and I've asked in I think a winter meeting setting at one time, Mosaic, about how did that Arozarena thing come together? You guys wanted Liberatore. Which, by the way, Liberatore pitched last night, 7 strikeouts, 5 1/3 scoreless. He's still on the team, so that wasn't even a trade the Cardinals lost. The Arozarena thing is the best example of guy finds a change of scenery and blossoms elsewhere. On the hitting side, you could look at Sandy Alcantara as well. I won't even count Zach Gallen. He never made it to the big leagues. He was just a prospect with the Cardinals. That was not applicable to this.
Dan Heron.
But I'm talking about the current era. but that's fine. Arozarena is the best example, and even that trade, the Cardinals are still benefiting from that trade. 6-7 years later, whatever it is. Arozarena, good major league player, 780 OPS for his career, 22% above average. He's been great. I totally get it. But I wanted to know, like, was that the Cardinals just thinking Arozarena's extra, like, let's cast him out, or was that the Rays said that's the outfielder we want of your group of outfielders at the time?
There is some truth to that. With Randy, we've had Kevin Eibach on, who was in the Rays front office, and they said that they called the Cardinals and they specifically said, we want that outfield that you have.
Right.
They specifically had targeted Randy Arozarena as a guy that they could get and they could develop.
And so
from
did they
Rays
make
side,
the first call, it sounded like, based on that? Like the Rays approached the Cardinals, maybe?
It sounds like
that would make sense to me.
Well, honestly, not necessarily that, because I still believe that they were the first call as soon as the thing happened. And teams around baseball were watching him saying, why are they playing this guy? And then the thing happened in the playoffs and they were like, hey,
the Instagram thing,
they go, hey, you guys hate when things like that happen. You want to make a deal? Like, I feel like they were lurking, and then the instigating moment happened.
Which is why probably the question to Mo wasn't really fair to even, because the answer isn't we weren't necessarily shopping him, but we weren't necessarily like, we didn't identify Liberatore. I think the Rays probably, and again, this is totally baseless speculation. I have no idea if it's true, but you could see a world where the Rays identify Arozarena, identify that there might be a chance to, and then they say, hey, to get him, we have to give something up.
I'm not sure about.
I wonder what they thought of Libby though. Like Libby's pitching in a rotation 6-7 years later and doing just fine.
They were that high on Arozarena. Like literally, I don't know exactly who makes the first phone call, but I know for a fact from Kevin Eibach, they were lurking.
That's really interesting, and it makes sense. And we know that's been a sharp front office over the years. And one of the guys that was in that front office is now going to be running the Cardinals. So like it all kind of comes full circle. But my point was though, in bringing up Arozarena, was that like all these guys that we think, change of scenery, that's what they need. They just need to get away from the Cardinals. Look back at some of those years later, and like I think it's probably maybe it's a little bit above average of like they get an uptick compared to whatever you would measure if you could do like a statistical analysis on every team when guys leave, what happens. Mostly it's probably right around the median though, because there's some guys that go like Dylan Carlson and they never seen again. Like he's still kicking around, but has not like taken off in the same way that we think about it when we talk about Arozarena. You could always go with Adolis Garcia, but that was another one where every team had a chance to have him, and so it wasn't uniquely the Cardinals that flubbed on Adolis Garcia, not seeing his potential. People bitch about that one. But with Jordan Walker, I mean, that was what we kind of got into with this conversation. Sure, he could go somewhere else and be great. Is it more narrative based that's a thing with the Cardinals? Yes, it's more narrative based. I'm not letting Jordan Walker be added to the narrative if I am the Cardinals, unless Chaim Bloom, who has been watching for 2 years, goes, actually, we can't fix this guy. And if that's the case, in Chaim we trust, like you have to kind of say that he's going to be the guy to get to put his fingerprints on the organization in the way he sees fit. Having anybody, including ownership, kind of tell Chaim Bloom the way that things need to be done, I think would be wrong. I think Chaim needs to be as powerful. I think he needs to be able to look to ownership and say, hey, what would really help if we're allowed to do X, Y, and Z? Because I think with Mo, when you think about Mo and ownership, they're the meld of their ideas were so often, and maybe there's a part of that that's not true. What's the money for? To do what ownership tells you, and Mo's done a great job of that. To be able to have ownership's ear of, we need to move forward from the way that we've been doing things is I also think going to be a big part of Chaim. But you know what? Like, they hired him. And so I feel like there's going to be the synergy that is needed there. It's just going to be interesting when it comes to Walker, whether or not that's a guy that Chaim's going to say, we can fix this guy, or we just got to cut our losses and take what we can, because that's the prior iteration of the Cardinals that signed him and brought him up. And it's not going to work. I don't know what he feels, but I think we'll find out in due time.
I think it's fascinating because when we got into this topic, someone's like, Brenden, B-Schaef's done 2 videos on this topic. And I didn't know if we would get a lot of response, considering this is a 48-hour-old story, and yet the chat has not stopped.
It's one of the biggest stories of the offseason.
GB says,
it is
zero growth from Walker. How can you still believe?
That's fair, man. it's fair. There hasn't been growth. There 100% has not been growth. If it's a heavyweight boxing match, his rookie year, he got punched a little bit and had to go down to Memphis. He had to go down to Memphis though in that year. He came back and he counterpunched, man. And he said, like, I'm above average as a big league hitter right now at 20 or 21 years old. Since then, there has not been a singular punch back that has really happened from Jordan Walker consistently. It's been a downward trend. And so I'm clinging to stuff that happened 2 years ago. I'm clinging to draft status and things that aren't as relevant in 2025. Jen says, hey, 2026, send him to AAA to be reevaluated. I don't think he gets anything out of that either.
We've done that. That is the definition of a surrender move.
Yeah, we've done that. And I know what I'm saying doesn't really add up, because I'm saying simultaneously, don't trade him for nothing to give him a fresh start. Be stubborn, but also I can't necessarily guarantee you put him in the everyday outfield. How do you find ways to make that make sense? Well, okay, what about Memphis? And then I'm saying no to that too. I don't think he gains anything from Memphis, because I think he'll get there and whatever strides he'll make, he'll get back to the big leagues and they'll pitch him differently. They'll have scouting reports and they will not have, 28-year-old journeyman throwing meatballs over the plate that we'll see a highlight and go, wow, Jordan Walker's back with Memphis, bring him up. Like, that's not tangibly going to be anything that helps him. And so he's got to put his big boy pants on and figure it out at the big league level, or he's going to, he's going to realize that the Cardinals have exhausted their options with him. And for him, and that's the mentality that he can't have is, oh, I almost wish I get sent somewhere else that'll give me a change of scenery. Like, he can't be thinking about change of scenery, because if I'm the Cardinals, I don't want to give it to him, because I want to see him succeed for us. I drafted you. I want to get the most out of you. But again, it's not going to be Mo. It's going to be Chaim Bloom. There's a reason the chat's popping off. It's the most interesting topic, I think, going into the offseason for the Cardinals, other than probably like how the Arenado stuff ties into Weatherholt and whether or not they make a spot for him. I think the Walker stuff is even more interesting because of how big of a factor he was when they drafted him, and he was the one that was promised, right? And now how far it's come. Like, and I'm not saying this because of anything other than the numbers. It's just untenable. His numbers are awful. His numbers are bad.
It sounds so biblical.
Well,
the one that was promised.
He was the chosen
very
one.
Neo
I
Matrix.
was gonna say, do you want me to go Star Wars instead? Yeah. We'll go prequels. You were the chosen one.
Yeah, there's a lot of those allegories out there, aren't there?
If you kind of look, you'll notice.
It's almost like Western canon's defined by it. People are talking about the pitching. This is the last Cardinals topic I want to hit on before we finish up the show, because Matthew Liberatore did have a great start last night, and I wanted to hit on this. His first scoreless start since June 29th, and that is also the last time that he tallied more than 5 innings pitched. He only did win 5 1/3, but it counts. That counts. It's official. The first time in over 2 months that he's went scoreless and went over 5 innings. Your thoughts on Matthew Liberatore last night? Really had that slider going.
Yeah, I mean, the 7 strikeouts will tell you that the stuff was really working for him. That's a really good sign of progress, I think, from him compared to, like, I think they had been talking about it all. He had been talking about seeing little by little him making some progress out of this rut that he was in. But to see it statistically and to see it manifest in that way, I think was important for him last night.
That was fantastic. I love what we're seeing from Matthew Liberatore. For him to be able to dig down at his innings count right now to get that start from him, that was huge. I know they never pulled the trigger on the piggyback, and I still think there's a chance because of how much Palante is struggling around here to enter the end of the year. But Liberatore getting that start, I know it's against the A's, but still, Liberatore getting that start.
Sonny gave up 7 to the A's.
Exactly, and that's my point.
It all counts.
Him getting that start was absolutely huge. You know what else is going to be huge?
What's huge?
December 1st. Get ready. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook, is coming soon to the Show Me State, and you can sign up today. New Missouri residents can get $300 in bonus bets when DraftKings launches on December 1st. Download now and place a $5 bet when they go live. DraftKings Sportsbook brings everything you need to evaluate your game day, elevate your game day, and evaluate. Honestly, that's what I'm going through on my phone. You can pick your wagers to pop up on your home screen and things like that. It includes live betting, lightning fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action. all right from your phone. And when we go live in Missouri on December 1st, you'll be betting with a sportsbook app trusted by millions, safe, secure, and has fast money withdrawals. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code STL Sports right there on your screen to grab $300 in bonus bets, which is a $5 bet when DraftKings goes live on December 1st. That's code STL Sports right there on your screen in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook, where the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.com. sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Last thing here to finish out the show. It is the NFL kickoff tonight. Cowboys and Eagles. My biggest drop into the NFL has been a fantasy draft that I did earlier this week with one Brenden Schaeffer. Your thoughts, though? We did that. I felt pretty good about my squad. Jahmyr Gibbs and Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts.
Wow.
A lot of money, but I'm feeling pretty good about my top three as long as they all stay healthy.
That's
and
the
the Eagles are actually good. So tonight could be a really good night or really bad night for my fantasy squad. But overall, we're getting into another season in the NFL. I can't help myself, but I'm getting more and more interested every year.
Good.
And I'm locking back in for this season. I think it's going to be fun. And I think the Eagles and the Cowboys going to be a good kickoff game tonight.
I think the Eagles are going to roll them. I don't know how the Cowboys could be in a good place right now after the way that the Micah Parsons trade went down. And the only thing that gives me any pause whatsoever is just when you look at like the betting splits, everybody and their brother is on the Eagles tonight. So we'll see. But I think that's probably the right side.
When you see that kind of heavy money, do you react to that in any way, or does that mean you're just staying off a game completely?
No, I definitely. Sometimes if I'm on the fence and it looks like that, I'll be happy to take the side that the public is not on. But like when I go in thinking, oh, for sure the Eagles are going to roll them, and then I see, oh, everybody's picking the Eagles, that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable about. Like, should I
Cowboys with the points?
Should I not necessarily do I want to fade it, but do I just want to not get involved at all because the side I liked is the one that everybody likes. So maybe I'm not as smart as I think.
Fair enough. Coming up later here on STL Sports Central, as usual, we will have a Card Central 365. And one of the hosts for the show today, you might recognize him from last night's broadcast as our good friend Stephen Carey got an awesome chance to join Chip and Brad.
That was cool.
On the broadcast last night. I thought he absolutely killed it. I texted him. I go, listen, I didn't hear a word you said, but the jacket looks great. And your dad looked like he was having the time of his life with you next to him. So I feel like it was a great job.
Yeah, he did a great job.
Stephen did absolutely fantastic. Him coming back from break, that was so clean. I was like, Stephen, way to absolutely hit it out of the park. So you can see even more Stephen Carey talking Cardinals baseball coming up right here on STL Sports Central with Card Central 365. That's Brenden Schaeffer. You can catch him all the time across Card Central 365. Every once in a while here on the Randy Carricker Show. And of course, Southeast sports fans and Mizzou Central, because it is football season. We got something special coming up on Saturday down in Columbia. If you're in Columbia or if you're going to the game at 11:30, pregame show on STL Sports Central for Mizzou Central pregame. We'll be going live at 11:30 from my house. That's not my house.
You're going to your house?
That's a bar.
Oh.
That's an establishment in Columbia. I feel like
you invited everybody over. That's so nice of you.
I feel like this has to be something that confuses drunk people all the time in Columbia.
Go to my house.
Exactly.
It's like, bro, I'm here.
How is this not a problem?
I don't have a key.
Town?
I don't have a key to your place. Can you let me in? What are you talking about?
I was writing the promos. And I was like, how are drunk people not showing up at each other's houses?
We're at a table in the back.
All over Columbia, Missouri with this happening. We will be at the establishment in Columbia that is called My House at 11:30 on Saturday for a little Missouri pregame before the border war. And of course, as we always do on STL Sports Central, we'll be bringing you a postgame after. As always, we also have post games for the Fighting Illini, which Brenden doesn't care about as much, but they're going to be here. Blues is going to be getting started here soon. We will be having post game with the Blues. All your coverage for all things STL Sports is, of course, on STL Sports Central. For Brenden Schaeffer, I'm Matthew Rocc. Thank you to our sponsors, the Steeple Charity Classic. Check them out this weekend. And, of course, DraftKings Sportsbook, where the crown is yours. We'll be back tomorrow with Randy Carricker. He's going to be on location because he's got things going with the Steeple Charity Classic. So he'll be on one camera. I'll be on another one. We'll be having a lot of fun. We're going to talk to Bernie Miklasz tomorrow. We're going to be talking about border war, obviously, even more so. So stay tuned tomorrow. We'll be back about 10:02 tomorrow right here on STL Sports Central.